these online and let those people that are unable to join us watch them later on. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get started. My watch is reminding me to get started. So today we're talking about formative assessment tools. And if I could work my computer, it would be okay. I know Denise, but I don't think I've met either Rachel or Shanda in the past. So I'm Karen Leonard. Right now I'm the Director of Education Technology and Computer Science, but we are in the process of hiring someone for the computer science role. So I will be Director of Education Technology and Virtual and Blended Learning. Reach out to me at any time with any questions you have, and you're going to notice that up in the top right-hand corner of every slide is a link to the slide deck. You're welcome at any time. I always try to put links that you can utilize. Make sure that you're able to access everything. So today we're really going to talk about digital formative assessment tools and do a little bit of question and answering. If you've got anything that you may have questions about or want to share. And so formative assessment. I think there are many times that there is some confusion on what formative assessment is. So I just kind of wanted to distinguish what I call formative assessment. And basically that's a tool that teachers can use to kind of either give feedback to students or to guide their instruction. It gives us like that touch point of what's going on and who has, what knowledge. My perception of formative assessment is that it does not go into a student's grade. It's used to guide instruction. And I classify summative assessment as something that would receive a grade. So based upon that, again, the purpose of formative assessment, well, it shows us where the learning gaps are occurring. It helps teachers improve by their instruction by making adjustments based upon individual student needs. And it helps the students improve their own learning. It really helps them identify their own individual strengths and weaknesses. Because many times, we just provide instructions to students, and I don't think students often take the time to pause and reflect as to whether they've actually attained any information. Oh my goodness, there we go. So I'm going to share a bunch of tools. Again, if you've got ideas and things that you would like to share or you've used a tool, please shout out, talk, share anything. I'm going to talk with some commonly used tools. And again, I'm not going to spend as much time on these because I think they're probably ones that you've heard of, but then introduce some others. But just in case you haven't heard of some of these, oh my goodness, there we go. Okay, so exit slips. Exit slips are great. It doesn't matter if it's got a student name on an exit slip or if it's anonymous. Sometimes it's good to get the overall pulse of the class, but sometimes you really want to get that individual student feedback. One thing that I've done is I did create an exit slip template right here. And one of the things that I really enjoyed seeing is the conditional formatting within a Google Sheet, where you're easily able to see on the right-hand side, boy, the majority of students, everything was making sense to them. And it really kind of draws your attention to some of those disagree. I felt treated kind by my peers, and it allows you kind of to go back and talk to some of those individual students to find out exactly what was going on at that time.
That kind of plays into our social emotional too, that we're kind of trying to be aware of in every classroom.
Right. And, it could be, it doesn't necessarily have to have, I felt, treated fairly by my classmates, but it just kind of depends upon the purpose.
Yeah.
But we do like to get that understanding of how they're feeling too. So you may have already used this, but that conditional formatting, I just think really kind of makes it easier for you to target the results of that. So like I said, I've at least got one template there that you're able to copy and use. But here was a different kind of exit ticket. I found this, and this is a Jamboard brain dump. You're again going to find out that all of these links should allow you to make a copy. And mine does not want to allow me to make a copy right now. In fact, oh, there we go. I kind of liked this because not only was it a Jamboard, but it kind of had a little bit more of that interactivity. And I thought that was kind of neat. And, you know, students can just go either individually by the page or frame within a Jamboard, or it could just put information down here. What's something you learned? What's something you're still confused about? And sometimes, although you're sharing instruction with students, if another student shares something that they personally have learned, maybe they're able to put it in different words, and it can make that connection for other students. So if it's like that collective brain dump. So I thought that was kind of a neat tool to use. And on top of that, recently, I found a whole plethora of Jamboards designed just for formative assessment. I thought I would put them in there. What I liked about this is you're able to get a preview of them, or you can actually make a copy. And these are nothing that I've created. Obviously, you're able to question and answer partner exit ticket. You'd have to think strategically on how you would use each of these, but sometimes when we see a list of resources and ideas, it can spawn different ways for us to implement that formative assessment. We know that if we do the same thing every single time for our students, that gets really boring to them. So hopefully there is something that you have learned you can use there. Another one I found was also called a brain dump, but what I thought was really interesting for this is actually a Google slide deck. You can copy it. You would assign each student a slide. So every slide looks exactly the same. Assign each student a slide, and it actually has built-in timers. So the first time they go through this, you're going to give them 30 seconds, and you just want them to dump everything that they've learned about that concept. And then you have them pause. You set a timer for 1 minute, and they add anything else that they can think of. After that 1 minute, then you allow them the opportunity to scroll through everyone else's slides and read what other people wrote, and then come back and add things that they've learned while reading or remembered while reading someone else's slide deck. And I thought that that was just kind of a unique way. So it's collaborative sharing and learning, but you're still giving that independent opportunity first and then filling the collaborative opportunity in. I just thought that was kind of a different type of activity. Anyone have any other ideas for exit tickets or anything that you've used as an exit ticket or a brain dump that you've loved?
I'm from Broken Arrow Public Schools, and we use Canvas.
Okay.
And I always, when I was still in the classroom, I'm on our tech team now. When I was in the classroom, I had an ongoing discussion board through Canvas, and my kids could go in, and I would usually put a question at the beginning of each week, and they could ask their own questions, respond to each other, and answer the question I had posed. So that was pretty fun. I taught freshmen, and so they kind of knew how to use the discussion board, and it's a good skill for them to learn as well.
I really like that idea. Thanks for sharing, Rachel.
I do too.
And did you have it so that everyone could see, was it just a discussion with you and the student, or was it a discussion board that was open to everyone that they could read everyone's responses?
So it was open to everyone in their section. So
Okay.
first hour could only see first hour,
Okay.
but they didn't have to post first or anything like that, just because
Okay.
it was sort of an open ongoing. We would also do graded discussions, and those were a little more limited.
I like it. That's a good way to use a discussion board. I am sure most of you have used Nearpod or Pear Deck. If not, I'm, like I said, really not going to spend a lot of time on this, but both of these are wonderful tools and each image is linked directly to the site. What I like about them is when students are within, I can create anything within a Google Sheet or a Google Slide deck, share it with students through the Pear Deck add-on, and students are like locked into a screen with me. But I really like some of the pre-created tools that they have on Pear Deck on the left. What did you like? What was hard? What was easy? What didn't you like? And on the right-hand side, that's a Nearpod example where it's I felt confident about most of the answers or some of the answers. So if you have never used Nearpod or Pear Deck, and you know, people normally have a favorite, they're either one or the other. I personally probably tend to go with Pear Deck more often, but everything I share has free access at least. I'm sure that many of you also have used Kahoot or quizzes. I know that, you know, Kahoot's been around for maybe 8 or 9 years, I think. I mean, it's been around for a while now. I think it was a great way for our students to have that interactivity and that gamification. I think many of our students might kind of be on the verge of, I'm kind of tired of using this tool. Sometimes we have to make sure we flip it up. So Kahoot and quizzes are both pretty much the same thing. What I like is you're able to use both of those as a whole class, immediate interactivity, asking questions. They can either respond as teams or individually, but I can also create a series of questions and assign them as homework, maybe through something like Canvas or Google Classroom. So just a kind of fun, gamified way to encourage you know, to identify student understanding. And I'm looking in the chat box too. Leanne was sharing Padlet. Okay, you got a couple of mine, Leanne. Of course you do. I figured you would. Good. We're going to come back to some of those. She also said she likes interview style formative assessment or speed dating. Could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so you just have students, you know, you kind of like you do with speed dating, and you have them set up with questions, and it's more about like they're just talking with one another about whatever the question is or whatever you're trying to cover, and the teacher is going around and listening, but they're getting some, you know, interaction with one another. Teacher is getting some formative information to understand, like, what do they know, what do they need more about, but it just, you know, adds some of that collaboration and getting students to talk to one another in class about what you're needing to talk about.
I love that. And I do believe that quizzes, you can take out the time component too, because I'm not a person that has super fast recall, but that was always kind of unnerving.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if it was quizzes or Quizlet or what, but I know there's one where like, I mean, Kahoot to me is fun because of that timed aspect, but I know for some students it sort of like takes them out of their element to really be able to think about the question. So I just like being able to integrate some of those where it's like, it's more about, do you know the answer, and less about how fast do you know the right answer.
And, you know, I'm glad you mentioned Quizlet. That's something that I've used for many years. And I think that's a great tool for student self-formative assessment with like some of the flashcards and some of the other games. Not only can they create their own, but then they can kind of quiz themselves too. I like that. Oh, good golly.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Leanne, on your stuff, I didn't catch it right at the first. Are you having students, do you have pre-questions for them, or do they just have a topic and then they're talking about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could really do it depending on the content and what you're trying to get out of it. I think you could do it either way. I typically had questions ready, and then we move forward that way. But, you know, I think it, like I said, depending on the content and, you know, where your students are in their progression of learning, like if they can come up with quality questions that you feel like are going to be beneficial to their time, like I would do that too. I mean, anytime that we can empower students to realize like what they have to offer as just as beneficial as what we have to offer them. Like I said, I think it just depends on where they're at in their progression of learning.
Okay, thank you.
Another one that I'm sure many of you have heard and used before is Flipgrid. I love the ability Flipgrid has that teachers can pose questions either through text, through audio, through video, and they can have students also pose responses through text, audio, or video. Their responses can be seen by everyone in the class or can just be seen by the teacher. I thought this was a unique way to use Flipgrid by posing an image such as the one there and asking them to make up sentences using prepositions based upon the picture. So they would have to be able to not only be able to identify and place what words could be prepositions, but then they're actually posing it. So makes it a little bit more, or maybe you could have students post their own pictures and write sentences or identify parts of speech from that. So Flipgrid's kind of still a fun one. I love the fact that it can be done on a phone. Doesn't require a whole lot and people can respond anywhere, anytime. Edpuzzle is another one of my favorite. Edpuzzle is a great tool to use if you would like students to watch videos. I can create my own videos. I can find video on YouTube. What I can do is I can pull the video into Edpuzzle, and either throughout the video or at the end of the video, I can pause the video and ask individual student questions. I can set it up so that students themselves see the responses and find out if they're correct or not. I could have students sign into a program and I can see individual student responses to see if a student just kind of flew through the video and checked everything and didn't really pay attention. So it's just a good way. And I really liked this one because I thought this question was unique. What is the correct way to write 3.5 as an improper fraction? So that was normally, I think of just word questions, but I kind of liked the inclusion of that as an image question too. And Rachel says they use H5P. I honestly have never heard of that, but it's similar to Edpuzzle, Rachel?
So it does what Edpuzzle does. So you can take a video, pause it, add questions. It's a little more extensive than that. You can do interactive videos, memory games, like flashcards, drag and drop activities. There's just a lot of options, which, when we are paying for products for our district, the more it does, the more we like it, right? So we're really moving in that direction. It's also a little more elementary friendly than Edpuzzle, which has been really great for when we have distance learning.
And Leanne said it's pretty legit. It's worth the time it takes to learn to use it. So I guess I know what I'm doing tomorrow. I love the ability to have y'all share too, because that's the best way that we can learn. Okay, so hopefully I can share some newer tools with you. GimKit. Are any of you familiar with GimKit?
I know that we have Broken Arrow teachers using it, but I have not used it personally.
Okay, GimKit is kind of, I would kind of compare it to maybe Kahoot or Quizzes. But what's unique about GimKit is the Kit Collab feature that allows students to input questions as well. And, that could be, obviously, we always have to be very careful when we're allowing students to create anything that's shared. But, it could be really good for them to pose questions that they don't know the answer to themselves and see if somebody else can answer, or it just was a different way to be able to try and get some formative assessment feedback. And I like anything when you're able to have students participate, kind of like what Leanne was saying earlier. Oh, good. We've got, okay, I'm going to share that before we go, Leanne, her link for student debates and what they agree and don't agree with. Socrative. Have any of you, I think Leanne had said she'd heard this one. Okay. Again, it kind of has that same maybe review-ish format. And I think that's probably one thing. I think we kind of have to think there's two ways we can use many of them, these tools. Tools for students to review and prepare maybe for tests could be one way, but it can also be able to provide you with that feedback as well. What I liked about Socrative is teachers can have pre-posted, or you can make questions on the fly. And I really like the ability to kind of adapt as, oh my gosh, I want to take your pulse right now and find out what's going. What I love about almost all of these tools are you can see student responses in real time. And I think that's the wonderful reason to use technology. You know, here I am an EdTech person. I love technology, but I don't think it's the best tool to use at all times. There are so many times that using pencil and paper or manipulatives or talking with students is the best use of technology. We don't want to just use it because we have to use it. So, you know, when I was working with my school in Georgia, this was the first thing that we really worked on with our students was formative assessment and the great opportunity that technology gives you instant responses. Students really liked Socrative because either I could use it as an exit ticket, like I said, and create questions on the fly, or there were some of the gamifications. I believe this one is still free. You're able to go in and get student responses. You know, of course, almost all of these have the ability to pay for the usage and get more intensive results. Okay, formative. Leanne shared this one. I love formative. It's probably one of my favorite tools. Teachers can ask students questions. Students join with the code. Of course, we always have to think about what tools, what age groups our students are. How are we asking our students to join? This one is great because students can join with a code, and each individual student's screen can be seen by the teacher. So students or teachers can see student responses in real time. Whether it works probably best if they have a stylus, because then they're able to draw. Think about math, creating math facts or solving math problems. But look at all of the tools that you can use with formative. You can embed content by audio, websites. Love the hotspot, short answers, show your work. And so the great thing is too, a teacher can be looking at all of the responses at once on the teacher screen and select one and project it for the entire class to see. So that's kind of neat to say, you know, this is how I would have solved this problem, and then ask the student to explain the different steps. Just a really fun way to not just see the end response, but see how students are progressing on their way through there. Here was another one. This is just a drag and drop activity. Again, obviously that's not much recall, but think of just a visual idea of some of the other things that they can do, and they can write on it, drag, drop, anything. Answer Garden. Have any of you used Answer Garden before? Yeah. Okay, good. I'm at least if you can just get one new one. What I love about Answer Garden, sure, you can always do things like what makes you happy, but the more responses of the same type, the bigger the response goes. So maybe you're going to be asking a question that is, you know, give me some examples of improper fractions or something. And it's just kind of a good anonymous way to get a good pulse very quickly. Again, I could easily share this on the fly. And like I said, all of these images link you directly to the websites. Dot storming is something that I learned in one of my classes last year. Love the ability, you are able to do this in multiple steps. Maybe students are first posed a question and they write their responses in. Then you can go back and have students rank the responses according to the one that they thought best answered that question. Again, you're able to put all kinds of pictures, words, everything in, and you're just voting by dots. And it's kind of a neat, easy way. Again, anonymous though, for the most part. Go soapbox, anyone? No, okay. I loved this one just because of the ease. If nothing else, I think I could take some of the questions in here, transfer them into another tool. The confusion barometer I thought was just an absolutely ingenious thing. I'm getting it, I'm confused. You're getting the responses back. And students can ask and vote for questions. So, ask students to put their own questions in. They're able to see, and other people are able to see, first of all, I'm not the only student that has that question, and they can upvote it. And that can show you some of the common questions among your students. So it's kind of a different way to understand what they're not getting and what connections haven't been made.
Are the questions that they are asking, are those anonymous?
Yes, which absolutely would be very important. And again, you can see over here that, people have voted on the questions. And the great thing is you can even use this asynchronously before class. So maybe they've gone in, they've done some reading the night before, and they still have questions. And, that's your first pulse check when they walk into the class. What didn't you understand last night? So that was really quick, trying to make it short and sweet so you're not using too much of your time. Are there any other tools that you would recommend that you're like, I can't believe she didn't share this one with us? I'm trying to go back. Let's see what else. Padlet. I should have done Padlet. I love Padlet. It's a great way to have information shared. Is it secretive? Is that, or was it Socrative? Leanne?
Yeah, I was mistyping. It was
Okay.
Socrative.
I was going to say, I was excited. Quizalize is another one that I've seen before. Plickers, if you've not seen Plickers, it is a great low-tech tool. Students are given QR codes and they can hold it up, basically A, B, C, D answers. And you, as an educator, can scan with your phone quickly around the room and find the responses. And that
one that I used in the classroom quite a bit, and that a lot of people have access to and maybe don't know, is a lot of the smart board. If your school still has smart boards and you still use Smart Notebook, all of those resources are available online and load a lot faster at hellosmart.com. And there's all of the smartboard games. And then, sorry, I'm looking it up right now. There's one, I have to sign in. I'm so sorry.
While you're looking for that, Leanne, I tried to pull up the teaching channel for the literary debate. I think debates of any kind are very fun, even if you're just using like a Jamboard, four-corner Jamboard, to have them share their thoughts on something and provide backup information and justification. And so you said, Rachel, that was hellosmart.com.
Hellosmart.com is how the students join. Smarttech.something is how the teachers join. And I can email you with that information if you'd like. But there's one on there called Shout It Out. And so I used to, in the past, give all my kids Post-its in the parking lot on the wall. With this, you can make digitally the same thing with Shout It Out. So they join with a code and they can post to the smart board, and then you can sort the Post-its with the touch capability. And so it was interactive, and I would usually pose a question, check for understanding.
And you know what? I think you brought up a good point. Even if people don't have access to smart boards, many times we're able to take those ideas and turn them into something with another tool. And I love to be able to take ideas like that. And I just think that encouraging teachers to use formative assessment is a great way to get them very interested in using technology within their classroom in a very easy to use manner. And hopefully there was at least one new tool that you were able to take away from that. And I know I personally have gotten a few new tools, and I'm very thankful for that. Are there any other non-formative assessment questions or comments or anything you'd like to share or ask? Oh,
I found
awesome.
a teacher login for that smart notebook and put it in the chat.
Thank you so very much. I will, that is in the chat. Good. Well, again, I'm trying to ensure that these are my original meetings were 1 hour long. And I'm like, y'all have too many things to do. If I can share some short, sweet tips and ideas, hopefully that would be something that y'all can use. We are finished with our EdTech meetings until probably sometime this summer, but some things to keep in mind. I will be sharing a couple presentations at our Engage OK that will be going on in July. We're traveling to multiple areas. I don't think the locations have been announced yet, but we'll be traveling across the state sharing ideas. Another great thing is that the Oklahoma Society for Technology and Education, OKSTE, is having their annual conference in Tulsa in November. And some of you, I think we would love to have share your tips, tricks, tools, anything that you have. And I would love to have you consider presenting. That would be
My
good.
team from Broken Arrow is going to try to present. So
Good. Well, they said that I think the presentation proposals are due maybe April 15th or 18th.
yes, we have a meeting about it tomorrow.
Good. I just filled out a couple today. They're really low stress, but you know, you all have wonderful things going on. And I know there are many times that I'm thinking I have absolutely nothing to share with anyone. Everyone already knows what I'm going to share, but there are so many people out there that really need your help and support and guidance. So please consider doing that. Some other things that you can share with others as we, consider teachers are kind of winding down for the school year, looking forward to a nice summer, but if they're looking for other ways to kind of build some of their technology skills throughout the summer, I have several resources that may be helpful to them. So thank you. I'm going to stop sharing and stop recording.